Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy AA around 2 for 20. I'm bringing you guys a Sword and Shield discussion video. We're gonna be doing both a discussion video on my channel and on the person I'm doing this with. I say we because today I am discussing with my good pal MattOshea.
Hey guys, it's Matt. We're back again with Aaron to do a discussion on something that's gonna be pretty cool. I think we're both pretty excited for the new generation, right?
Yep, I'm actually very much looking forward to it. I'm not necessarily at the point where I'm completely burnt out on Ultra Sun and Moon like a lot of people are, but I'm still, of course, looking forward. New gen, that means new stuff. In terms of what we're going to be discussing here, on my channel, we're going to be discussing things such as new abilities, battle mechanics, forms, etc. And on Matt's channel, we're going to be discussing new types that we want, new moves, and also some new items. So I think that it'll be very interesting. Both sides, I'm sure, will have a lot of really good discussion. So make sure you check out both sides and sub to Matt while you're over there, as well as myself while you're over here.
Yeah, for sure. One thing I think we do have to mention though, right, is that this is going to be focusing on competition, right? The competitive aspect.
100%. It's all competitive aspect. I do a ton of competitive on my channel. Matt does a ton of competitive on his channel. So these are both competitive aspects. It's not like, well, I mean, I had one thing that wasn't competitive related, but overall, it's mostly competitive aspects.
95%.
Yeah, 95%. I think that qualifies it enough. Because, I mean, Matt and I both mainly focus on the competitive aspects on both our channels. It makes sense that if we're going to do a Sword and Shield discussion video, it's going to be on competitive stuff. Because that's what we both mostly look forward to in terms of these games. So it makes sense.
Yeah, so like Aaron said, we're going to be doing abilities, mechanics, and Megas and Z moves right now. And I think it's a really good place to start because people like to speculate a lot on like what the starters evolutions are going to have for abilities, what their hidden abilities are. So
Yeah.
I don't know, do you think there's going to be any new ones, or do you think we're just going to kind of have the same old stuff we used to have?
Well, it seems like every generation we get some sort of new ability. I'd like to hope that we get at least something new. A few ideas that I had, one was an ability that that sets Trick Room and Tailwind. We have abilities for weathers, we have abilities for terrains. The only field effects that we do not have them for are Trick Room and Tailwind. We really need these. As someone who plays a lot of doubles as well, this is something that I would especially look forward to, considering how much I'd love to just spam Trick Room and Tailwind in doubles. This would be a godsend, essentially, for me, in my opinion. Especially for drafting fat teams in terms of draft format. Things like Reuniclus, if you had a Trick Room setter that switched in and set Trick Room, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had the Trick Room ability on my list too, and I do feel that Trick Room is a lot more broken than I think Sand is, or Hail, or whatever the other weathers are, just because there's not really, you can't just send in another, like, you can just send in another, like, Hail setter or Sand setter, whatever it is, just to change the weather really quickly. But there's no really good way to change Trick Room back unless it's setting Trick Room up again. So I think, for me at least, you would have to lower it to, like, maybe 3 turns of Trick Room if this was an ability, just because it makes it so overpowered.
Well, and another thing also, you did mention that if you did set the Trick Room again, it would turn it off. So if you swapped in the Mon again, it could always turn it off. That would be some way to make it more balanced, because then either you need to keep that in, or once you switch it out, you can't bring it in again until Trick Room ends. So that at the very least, it may not seem like a nerf, but there are going to be a lot of games where I can guarantee you whatever Trick Room setting ability Mon you do have, you're going to be switching that thing in constantly, and maybe if you do need it, but you can't switch it in or you lose Trick Room, that's going to be a handicap in itself. Because let's say that's like a Steel Psychic type, for example, and you're in against like a fighting type or a fairy type, for example. So you're in against that fairy type, you then see that they double into a ground type, you bring in your slow water type like Wishy Washy. Then you need to bring in your Steel Psychic again because it's your only one left. You lose Trick Room now, and you then lose the game. So that in itself, that's a very, very speculatory example, but I feel like it's an example that I feel like is going to be a lot more common than I think that you're thinking right now.
Yeah, so the way I'm more so thinking about it is that if you have your Trick Room setting Pokemon there and I don't have anything in the back, I can't just be like, okay, you know what, let's say it's a Weather War. You have Sand, I have Hail. But in this instance, you have Trick Room, and I don't have a Trick Room setter with that ability. So then I'm pretty much just stuck for 5 turns while you're under Trick Room. I have to run Protect on something to wear down the turns, or I have to run Sub. Hopefully I live a hit. So I think having it being long, even though it can be reset by your own Pokemon, is going to be a little bit busted in terms of League play, especially.
I mean, I guess that's fair. There's always going to be people who take advantage of that. But I think that I think that there's definitely balance in itself purely off of the aspect of if you bring it in again, it would then counter itself. So I think at the very least it wouldn't be necessarily broken. It would definitely be really good. And I think that to balance that out, they would need to give it to something that's a little lackluster. Like, for example, if they maybe gave that ability to like a Behemoth, for example, it would make Behemoth good, but it wouldn't necessarily break Behemoth. It would make it really usable though.
Maybe something like Meowstic, like
yeah, like again, Meowstic, that would be great. Like all
Meowstic,
these,
like it's not that bulky, doesn't have the best stats, not the best move pool, but it's got a lot of support moves, and that's pretty much what it's used for now, just setting prankster screens. So
yeah. Or even, like, I'm thinking, like, really slow mons, but also that don't have a ton of offense necessarily. So something maybe, like, for example, like a Beartic. I mean, obviously, Beartic already has 3 really good abilities. They wouldn't necessarily change that. But in terms of, like, the stat distribution, like, Beartic isn't necessarily, like, a broken mon or anything. Yeah. But it has the slow speed. It could take advantage of it. Again, Beartic probably wouldn't get this ability. It would probably more so go to, like, a Psychic type or even, like, a Fairy type, for example. But I think that, or even like Malamar. Malamar would be a great candidate for this in my opinion.
Oh, for sure. It's not that fast. Its stats aren't amazing. It really relies on one ability. So if you're running this one, you can't run contrary. So I think that's a really good give and take for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like Malamar would be a great example of one that could have an ability like this. And even if you didn't cut it down to like 3 turns, it wouldn't necessarily break the mon or anything.
Yeah.
Because so if you're really running Malamar with an ability like that because you can't set up or anything, there's already something wrong with you.
So what about this Tailwind ability? This is more on your list, and I like the idea of it. Having Tailwind is awesome, especially right now. It's only, I think, it's 4 turns of Tailwind, the way it works in singles right now. And I mean, Tailwind's something that I'd like to make work for me, but I always feel like it just runs out too soon.
Yeah, that's an issue. Tailwind, of course, does double speed, and it's a very, very amazing move. However, the fact that you need to take a turn to set it is already huge. Whereas if you bring in a mon that sets Tailwind, that's an extra turn you have. And that extra turn, especially for an ability such as Tailwind, that could make or break your game. So, good candidates I was thinking for this, maybe, for example, like Talonflame would be a great candidate for this, for example. I feel like that Talonflame already having Gale Wings, it makes sense. It's literally like a flying, abusing Pokemon. Why not give it something like Tailwind? Or Tailwind
I like it. I think it goes again to the Malamar thing where it has a good ability, or it used to be really good back in Gen 6, and now it has another option that it can run. So it's not usually just either the offensive set with Gale Wings and just trying to break through with like a Z move, or just like a defensive set that you're hoping will get Flame Body Burns.
Yeah, or even something like Hot Leecher, for example. Like, no one's running Limber Hot Leecher, let's face it. You're either running Unburden... Alright, well, in most cases, you're either running Unburden, or even in, like, the 1 in 10 instances Mold Breaker to get past, like, an Unaware Clef, for example. But, in general, you're really just running Unburden. You can get rid of Limber. Unless you're MattOshea, you're not running it, and then you could replace it with, like, a Tailwind ability. Hot Leecher itself isn't necessarily a broken mon. It's Unburden that makes it as good as it is. So if you're running Tailwind ability, it's a lot better for team support, but it's not necessarily like breaking Hot Leecher or anything.
Yeah, I think Drifloon is another good mon for this ability.
That would be a great one for this ability.
It'd be really solid because already it's got some decent ability. Like Flare Boost can be pretty good in certain situations. Obviously, it has Unburden, which has its uses, but it's not it doesn't have amazing stats. It's pretty fast, but it doesn't have awesome offenses. So I think it's a really good pairing.
Yeah. And obviously, of course, there are some new mons that can always get these abilities, like, who knows. But I think that, in general, those 2 abilities would be something that would be really nice.
Yeah. So, for me, I had the Light Clay ability, and that's just, like, if you set up screens, instead of having it be 5 turns, it's going to be 7 or 8 turns. And, obviously, it takes away, and it gives these Pokemon an extra room for an item, and that could be kind of on the tough-to-beat side. But, again, I don't think something that's going to get this move, or get this ability, is going to be overpowered. Something that's has amazing stats. It's gonna be something a bit on the lower scale. Yeah.
Realistically, the only way I could see this even being remotely abused would be if you're in doubles and you're running it on, let's say a mon, for example, that got Aurora Veil, but it wasn't a lowly Ninetales. You bring a Hail Setter plus that mon, that would be the only way to make this remotely broken, because otherwise you're taking the turn to set Hail, then you're taking the turn to set up this ability, and that's going to be a pain. No team is going to want to actually go through that just to set up Aurora Veil. They're going to be setting up dual screens, if anything. And I think that, as I said, because of reasons like that, I think that would be a really solid ability. I'd really like to see it personally.
I would too. I think it's really cool. I think it's unique for both doubles and singles. But again, if it's that situation like that, then geez, that's a problem.
It would need to be that particular instance. And
Yeah.
and even then, they would also need to give whatever mon got that ability Aurora Veil, because it's the only way it would break it. Because, for
Yep.
example, if you run that ability in doubles, it's not like it's going to boost or load Ninetales setting up Veil. So
Yeah.
you would need something like that. In terms of other abilities, I actually had one. This is more so just an update to an ability, and I'm sure that Matt wouldn't even consider this because he doesn't realize the potential in this mon. They need to update Forecast. Goddammit! I want a Sandcast form. I just want it.
I think it'd be cool to have a sandcastle, to be honest.
Sandcast form. But they need a Sandcast form. They really do. We've had all the other weathers for years now. I want a fucking Sandcast form. I've wanted it for so long. I love sand. It's my favorite weather. Give me a Sandcast form already.
I think it'd be cool to have that. I don't know what moves you would give it to kind of celebrate that. Like, how many
Power.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, that makes sense. But like, you look at the signature moves that it has for the other weathers. Like, it's got Fire Blast for Sun. It's got Blizzard for. Is that Blizzard? No, it has Ice Beam at least for Hail. It has Hydro Pump for what is it called, for Rain. So to me, Earth Power just doesn't seem like strong enough. But
I mean, even then though, it still does get a ton of base 90 coverage, but it doesn't get Earth Power. Even then, you can give it like Ancient Power, and I get that's not like a really strong move, but at the very least, it does have potential.
Yeah.
You can give it a ton of other things. It even does get Sandstorm in its moveset, so it's not like it's just a mon that cannot touch sand. It can touch sand. It just chooses not to, which is annoying.
yeah, that's fair. I mean, I don't really think of Cast Form too much because it's got base 70s all around. But
Castform was low-key broken. I went 5-3 in a league with Castform. Don't mess with it. And that's with Castform alone. 5 kills, 3 deaths.
yeah, but you're a god with Cast Form, okay? That's different. Someone like me, nah, I can't use Cast Form.
Yeah, you're not worthy.
Ouch. Okay, well, next up though, because I'm not worthy of talking about Cast Form, so I personally, I love the adaptability ability, but I think that there's a way to kind of do another take on it, and that's the inverse of it. So this would make it so stab moves have reduced power, so instead of being stab, they would be regular base power, or maybe even at 0.9 base power over it, and then the non-stab moves would get stab on it. I think that's a really cool way to make Pokemon that don't have the greatest typing overall, but have amazing coverage, see much more play.
I think the way you explain it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, because it sounds like you're saying to give everything that's not the typing 1.5 times boost, but then reduce the 2 types it has, or 1 type it has.
Yeah, pretty much.
I feel like if anything, maybe just make it so you boost every type, but make it boost like slightly under what stab would. Like maybe, for example, boost by like 1.1, for example.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. It's just like more of a, because adaptability I think it doubles it. It's like another 1.5 on top of the already 1.5 I think it is. So that's why I was just mentioning that.
Yeah, because like if you did that, for example, of course, for any non-stab, if you did like 1.1 times, you'd already have the 1.5 times for stabs. If you did like a 1.1 times for, let's say, like an ice coverage move, that would be a really cool way to do it at least. I like
that better.
I think the way you described it almost sounds like it's nerfing the 2 types that it has, or the 1 type it has. So depending on the type of the mon, that could really be an awful thing for it.
That's kind of how I want to go about it though, because it's such a strong ability for Pokemon that get a lot of coverage. That's why I was thinking more of that. But
that is fair.
I do think having like just a smaller boost for the non-stab moves and keeping the stab on the other types or whatever it is that you suggested is much more balanced and fair.
Yeah, because looking at it, for example, something like a Mew, if Mew got that as a hidden ability, that would be so good on Mew.
Yeah,
maybe
maybe
you could finally be the best mon in format.
It is the best mon in format. Okay, go to your next ability.
Yeah. So I have a few more actually. One I misplaced when I was going through stuff, but the next thing I have is some more abilities like Surge Surfer and Grass Pelt that take advantage of terrains. Grass Pelt, I believe, is 1.5 times for defense in grassy terrain, and Surge Surfer at double speed. There are always cool ways to add to this. Something like, for example, maybe giving more speed for like a misty terrain, and for psychic terrain, maybe also doing like a Surge Surfer sort of thing. I don't know, but they need more terrain boosting abilities. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, terrain was such a huge part of the Gen 7 meta, and I would like to continue that going forward, because it's like, I don't like the fact that it's people kind of just went from like, okay, Mega Evolutions in Gen 6, now no Megas, and it's going to be all Z moves, all about that. I would like to have something stick from the previous generations going towards the future, just to show a bit of longevity. Yeah,
I agree, and especially on the terrain note, it feels like electric terrain is so much more powerful than like any of the other terrains. In terms of the terrain itself, obviously Psychic terrain is still very deadly, especially with Lele. But in terms of the terrains, I feel like that electric terrain, electric terrain just has a lot of support. It has, of course, all of them get things like Unburden from mons like Hawlucha and Driftblim, for example. But electric terrain does have the Surge Surfer, which is terrifying in itself because it's another mon that gets double speed in terrain that none of the other terrains have access to. And while Psychic terrain, of course, blocks priority and Misty terrain blocks status, electric terrain is a lot more mons that can, or at least another mon that can truly abuse terrain that none of the other terrains have. And I think that in itself is really deadly, and I think that other terrains should get things like that, even if it's not the same as Surge Surfer. Like grass terrain, at the very least, is Grass Pelt, and that's at least something. It's not something huge, but it's something.
Something is better than nothing.
Exactly.
So what else did you have?
I would say, next on my list, I have an ability that makes all priority both positive and negative 0. I figured that this is something that could be really interesting, because, for example, if you think about a lot of mons that use, like, Roar or Trick Room, if these mons all just rely on their speed, you have, like, a really fast Trick Room setter. Like, for example, obviously this mon won't get it, but let's say if Deoxys Speed had that ability. Now I can click Trick Room and be a really fast Trick Room setter that's like a suicide lead. Click Trick Room, bring in your slow breaker, start killing things. I think, like, something like that, of course, and there's also things like a really fast Roar that could take advantage of things that, like, for example, +1 Volcarona. If you gave this to a mon that had over base 100 speed, Scarf it, click Roar, and Volcarona is now dealt with very easily. And I think it's something like that could be a really nice deterrent to a lot of setup. It could really balance the defensive side of things.
Yeah, a lot of people are so worried about all of these, like, setup mons and a lot of these Pokemon just be getting behind subs and kind of just blowing through their entire rosters, and having something like this would make it so much more safe for the team that's getting set up against.
Yeah, so, I feel like, especially in terms of draft format, this would give a lot of viability to really fat rosters or really defensive rosters if they had a mon like this to take advantage of that. Because right now in draft format, if you're not running offense, you're doing something wrong. In my opinion, I think that running offense is truly the way to go in draft. But if you did have something like this of course does buff, like, just a stall team in general, or even just a really defensive team in general that doesn't have a ton of offense. And I think that, of course, that would be a really nice just buff in general. And also, it would still buff offense as well, don't forget, because you would still get things like a fast Trick Room, for example. They could be really nice for your team if you're running, like, a really fat offensive team with things like Conk and Reuniclus. So I think that in general, this is just a really nice ability, and I think that it would help a lot.
It also may not hurt, like, these mons that are pretty fast that do have priority. So, like, if you're running something, like, let's say you want to run a quick attack just for the hell of it. Like, if you're faster than your opponent, you're still going to be able to get off the priority quick attack before they attack. So
now, I don't know why you want to click quick attack, because you would always be clicking return in that instance. But I mean, at the very least, though...
Quick attack Coco. Attack Coco.
Okay, but Coco would never... Oh, no, right, because it would... I mean, to be fair, it would probably suppress for both sides. But even if it just did for, like, your side only, or that mon only, that would still at least be something. Yeah. I feel like, if anything, it would probably just be for the mon that has it. Like, for example, like how stall, it guarantees that you move last. I feel like it would sort of work like that. But, I mean, if it did work as, like, a field effect, I mean, that still is something at least.
Yeah. Well, anyways, and now you have something that's really unique, and go ahead, because I never thought of this.
So my last ability, and I thought of this especially from my time in VGC. I did a lot of VGC back in, like, the 2016, 2017, well, a little bit in 2017. Actually, no, it was 2017, I did a lot of VGC, and I went to tons of tournaments, and this was a huge factor. So I have a new ability, I'm going to refer to it as Revival, and basically, the way I put it was... When you get below 25% HP, it works essentially like a 50% berries do. And I felt like that was a really cool ability to have. I think that a mon like Mimikyu could get this as a hidden ability. That would make a lot of sense in my opinion. And even then, there could be a lot of new mons that can get this. I think that it would be really interesting for the VGC meta because you wouldn't need to necessarily run a berry on a mon, but you could still get that boost. And obviously, this is a really good ability, so we need to give it something like, for example, Mimikyu, that has really not the best stats. But it can make it a really viable mon, in my opinion, just in general, giving it to something like that. For example, if you gave it to like a cast form level stats, that would be something that could be really nice. Yeah, Tropius. Tropius, I think, actually would be a great candidate for something like this. Because Tropius, of course, it's a berry heavy mon, and it just, in general, doesn't have the best stats. But that could make it actually like a really okay mon in something like an Aryu tier, for example.
Yeah, I'm assuming that this ability would only be activatable once, right?
Unless you hit recycle. Well, actually, no, never mind. Yeah, because it wouldn't be a berry in itself. So yeah, it would be like a one-time ability.
Yeah, so that's still pretty useful. Like going up, like imagine something super fat. Like imagine if this is just like speculation, just like random bullshit, but Giratina. Like, that thing's already hard enough to take down. Imagine if that just had an ability like this. That'd be insane.
Oh, Giratina would probably be anything goes if it had. If any box art had this ability, I can safely assure you it would be anything goes. There is as a hardcore Ubers player, that would be disgusting to deal with. Disgusting.
Okay, well, is that all you got to say about the abilities? Because I think
yeah.
that's
In terms of abilities, I think that's all we had. That was our bigger category. A lot of the other stuff is quicker, but abilities, we just had a lot of really interesting stuff. I think that these are really interesting abilities to have, and I'm really looking forward to just in general what we could possibly get from new abilities.
Yeah. So moving on, though, we're going to talk about mechanics, and I guess I'll do the first one because this is the one that I've been waiting for forever, and it just doesn't happen. Multiple Wi-Fi background battles or battle backgrounds. This needs to happen. I'm sick of the green. I'm sick of the blue. Just give us something like, if we can just play in like the amazing scenery and amazing backgrounds they have in game, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, but Pokemon can learn a thing or two from the 7G replay editor. That's my best friend now. I even use that for live Wi-Fi battles. I got a thing on my DS through NTR that allows me to do for live comms. Pokemon can learn a thing or two from the hacking community.
It's amazing. It's amazing to use, and it's tons of different things that I think look amazing, and you can really kind of fit the backgrounds to the different theme of the battle. If you're trying to get a heat ran working, then you'll see, oh, there's a volcanic area rather. So,
yeah, exactly. As two people who love the Wi-Fi leagues especially, I think this is something that Matt and I both really want. I didn't even think about this as like a mechanic, but I guess it would definitely fit as a mechanic, and I agree. It's something that I've wanted for so long, ever since I realized that 7G replay editor was a thing. I've wanted it, so I really do want this in Gen 8. Please give it to us.
So what else do you have on your list for mechanics?
So, a new mechanic that I have, I'll go into the simple one first. This is the one thing that I have that wasn't a competitive mechanic necessarily, but I want Pokemon following to return. It's a simple thing. Like, why not? Why not give it to us? It's a simple thing. Just do it. They even showed the rivals doing it in Ultra Sun and Moon. Just give it to us already. We want to have Pokemon following.
It's something small that can be done, and it would be awesome.
Yeah. And they've even proven they can do it. Like, they did it in Let's Go. Why not just do it in Gen 8?
I think the only reason would be because there's so many more Pokemon to talk about, or to like make sprites for like that and have them follow you, and I don't know, but it should be done.
But even then, though, like in Gen 7, if you look into the files, they have running animations for all the Pokemon. So it's not that they can't do it. It's just and it's even included in the games themselves. It's just that they choose not to add it.
Yeah.
Which is the weird aspect. But anyway, in terms of the last thing that I have on my list actually is a new status. I know you had one as well, but both their status ideas were very different. The one that I have is just a new status that has special attack, essentially burn, but for special offense. It should really be included. I don't think that there's any reason to not have something like that. Just makes sense.
I think it'd be good. I think that, and maybe like a special intimidate would be something that would pair well together. But
I didn't even think about that. But yeah, that would be something else. A special intimidate. Of course, that falls into abilities. But again, that's something that I don't even know how I missed that. But that would be great.
Yeah, well, having special attack is good. I mean, it's already like special is already strong. It's like it's a better offensive type than physical, in my opinion. Yeah. And I don't think it's really because you have burn nerfing it and you have intimidate as well.
Yeah, really, the only special nerfing thing is an assault vest for special, but that's it. Yeah, we need more.
For sure, it's already really strong. But for me,
assault vest in 6 months when I face a scary special offensive month.
Yeah. For me, the new status that I had, it's not something that I created. It's not at all something that I found on my own. It was in a video. I can't remember who posted it, but it was an ability a status called Fear, and it's obviously it was part of like a leak, but I don't think it's gonna happen. It's like it's too out there to be something. But what did it was it lowered accuracy, and it also took away stab, which is crazy strong, especially if that sticks around for the entirety of the battle. And it's not like a confusion thing where if you switch out, it's gone.
Yeah. I think for something like that to be even remotely competitive, it would need to be sort of like how confusion works, how it's temporary, because otherwise that's absurdly broken.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. It's insane.
It's really strong. It'd be crazy. Obviously, they couldn't give it to too many people, or too many mons, and yeah. So other than that, though, I do have one last thing. It's very small. It's like probably the least important thing out of everything on this mechanics list. But in Gen 7, there was now the ability to see what mons your opponent has during the battle. So if you didn't manage to get a picture or write it down, you'd have that little bit of extra help. You can see which mons were sent in and out, if they were shadowed in or not. So I just want to see what the Pokemon's moves that they've used are. as well. So
Yeah.
like that would, just in case I forget, like to write down, okay, this mon has Earthquake, and that'll show this mon used Earthquake. So
Yeah,
I think it's something small.
as someone who's done a lot of live comms recently, where I'm writing down notes constantly on stream, this would save so much effort because pretty much half of my streams for anyone, obviously since it's going up on my channel, for all you guys who have seen like my Wi-Fi streams, you can always hear me like pounding away at my keyboard, writing down, oh, this Pokemon has this, and this. You know, so it's just something simple they could add, and it would be easy to implement too, because if you tap on the opposing Pokemon, you could see, like, for example, like status, like terrains that are up, how much turns they have, like for Trick Room, etc., all the lowered stats. So if you tap on a Pokemon, like when you view the party by pressing Y, for example, on DS, if you literally just tap on Pokemon, they could list like a summary of that mon for what you've seen so far, and that's a simple way to do it right there. And finally, we have new forms, things like pretty much like Z moves, regional variants, etc. Anything that was an extra mechanic that was introduced in Gen 6 or 7, we're going to be talking about in this last section. And also just random new forms. So, Matt, why don't you start us off?
So for me, I think the Gen 4 starters, they need to get Mega Evolutions. I think it's time. It's just going to point to a remake for Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, and those are pretty cool games, or pretty good games. So I'd like to see a nod to that. And I think, honestly, for me at least, a Mega Infernape would be the coolest thing in the world. Yes. Torterra, not so much. Empoleon, like, it's a bad defogger. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on them?
In terms of Megas, now, I of course would love to see new Megas. Megas were great, in my opinion. Do I think it's going to happen? I don't think so. I think that they're probably going to just stop making new Megas. They're going to stop making new Z moves, in my opinion, etc. I would personally, I don't mind new Z moves not being a thing. I don't really care about Z moves. I almost never run them anyway. But I think that in general, at the very least, new Megas would be something that would be really cool. Especially if they gave new Megas to the Gen 4 boys. I love them all. So I would love that, but I don't think it's likely, sadly.
Yeah, I don't think it's that likely either, but I think something like maybe Mega Flygon or a change to that, I think that to me would be really cool, because it would take mons that aren't like that loved and make them, I guess, a bit more hype, and then they'd be played more often in competitive. And like Flygon isn't amazing, but it gets Defog, it gets Dragon Dance, it gets Roost, it's got decent typing and immunity from Levitate. So I think it'd be cool to give shine to Pokemon that don't get that much of it, but also finish the job and give all the pseudos Megas. I don't like things that aren't completed.
That makes sense. In terms of Z moves, I already mentioned my thoughts, but I know you had thoughts on Z moves.
Yeah, like I'd like to have a Z move for the Box Art Legends. I think it'd just be something cool, because again, I don't like just dropping things in the middle. So like, there's been like Sun and Moon, Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon have been out for like 2 years now total, and I think just dropping it after 2 years is too much. It's too quick to get rid of it. So I think having just some Megas, or not Megas, some Legends, get those signature Z moves would be kind of cool. And also just more variety for the status Z moves. Like, I love running status Z moves. I love running Z Rain Dance. I love running Z Parting Shot would be cool. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Z Block, Obscure Defense. That's a really cool little tech to run for certain mons to help set up, and then Baton Pass out, depending on if you're leagues or if you're like that type of player on Showdown. Mm-hmm. I think having like an extra bit of variety for that would be really cool.
See, I think that as cool as that would be, the reason that I don't see it possibly returning is because it seemed like the Z moves were really tied into like the Alola lore. I think I could see them like returning as they are, but I don't think they're gonna like add new things to Z moves or anything.
So, yeah, it is really tied to the lore, and I think that's a big reason too. But again, it's just my personal, not preferences, but more like hopes.
Yeah.
So what did you have?
I'll say in terms of new forms, we both actually mentioned this, was new evolutions. Now, the real question is, this is the question of the entire video, Matt. What new type of evolutions would you specifically want to see in this? Obviously, you can't answer all 9 types that are missing, or all 8 types are missing, however many types are missing. But what, like, 1 or 2 types do you want to see most?
Personally, I would like to see a ghost evolution. I think it'd be really cool in terms of design and in terms of competitive play. But I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up getting a steel one. I think that's what's going to end up happening. Maybe steel and maybe a dragon one as well. But I don't see anything else.
See, I would love new evolutions, but something I've actually prefaced for a while, ever since they made Sylveon, because if you like the Eevee types, there are currently 8 evolutions plus Eevee, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Fire, Water, Grass, Dark, Psychic, and then Sylveon, right?
And that's then Grass, 6. Ice.
Oh, and grass type. So that's 8, and then
Yes,
you
that
have
would be 8
Eevee
plus
as well.
Eevee. So that would be 9. So if you look at that, that's half the type chart. And all of those Mons were special typings. That's all the Mons, besides Dragon. Dragon's the exception. But every other special typing was an evolution. Now, something that I think would be really cool would be to give all the physical types plus Dragon a new sort of Eevee, but it's like parallel and it starts as a ghost form, and then it evolves into the other types. I think that would be something that would be really cool personally.
Oh, so you're saying like, not like it's not Eevee that evolves, but it's another Mon that does the same things as Eevee. Like
Yeah, and
evolves
it's
into
sort of like the
multiple types.
parallel. And it would be like for the physical types. Like, for example,
That's pretty cool.
Ghosts could be the base form, and then they could evolve into like a fighting type, etc. And it could be like, sort of like, the Eevee itself would be like an undead Eevee. And when I first brought this up, I sort of mentioned it as like Vive, because like VVEVV, so it would be like the inverse. But like it could be like an undead Eevee in the sense, and then
That's
it could
really
be
cool.
like revived when it evolves into one of these other types.
I like that. I
And
like that a lot.
I think the concept in general of that would just be something that would be really cool. It would essentially be the same thing as like a parallel to an evolution. Now, obviously, if they gave Eevee more evolutions, I'm not going to complain. I love a lot of the evolutions. In general, I love using a lot of them, and I love them all just as mods in general, though. So that would be something really cool. Regardless, though, I think that Game Freak should hire me as an idea consultant. I think I can make this work out really well for them. We can
Yeah, I think so too.
split
You do a
the
good job.
revenue. But in general, the last thing that I had for new forms, and this sort of goes along to what I think personally the new mechanic will be. And I saw this actually sort of discussed in the Joey video, but I think that a way to elaborate on it would be calling it similar to like a stance change that Aegislash has, and making it an item that does that essentially. So it could be like a sword and a shield item that a Pokemon could get, and basically it would the sword and shield item would make it so Pokemon would get this stance change when it's in an offensive mode. Maybe it gets like a 25, or depending on the Pokemon, it gets like this boost to offenses, and when it's in the other mode, it gets this boost to defenses. And you can maybe make it so speed is involved at some point just by holding this item or whatever. I think that making it based on like Pokemon could be really cool. And I agree. I think that just the concept itself would be really cool. Now, something that also I heard from the Joey video would be like, for example, the fact that you'd have this plus like a Mega plus a C move. That would just be a lot of things.
Yeah,
but I feel like at the same time, it would still be a cool idea. I feel like.
I think if we were to play in like leagues or something, we would probably be like, okay, we're banning. You can have only one Mega or one of this stance change mons.
Yeah.
And I think that's like to kind of cap it, but.
I would say because it seems like it would at the very least work similar to a Mega. I think that in general that would probably be the way that they would handle it, though.
Yep. So like I think that's the best like new. That's really good in terms of like a new mechanic. And from what I've heard, like other things going around, like people just want like just Megas or just Z moves. People don't want anything new. I think having something like that where it's a change and really relies a lot on the lore behind Shield and Sword and like the UK and stuff is really cool.
Yeah. So I had one more thing. I don't know if you had anything else to mention.
I had one more thing, but it's small. I want another Rotom form just because.
Yes.
Rotom would be kind of cool to get another form. I'm thinking maybe like I don't know, maybe it's like a maybe Rotom Shield and Rotom Sword. How about that? And become like Electric Steel and maybe Electric Fighting or something. So
I'm down for it. The
cool.
sword can get like Electric Fighting, and it can get close combat as a move, or even Focus Blast. Focus Blast would probably make a lot more sense. And then the shield could get like, I don't know, Flash Cannon or something. Steel doesn't have good special moves. That would be something cool.
Doom Desire. That wouldn't happen, but that would be cool. I don't know, I think it'd be really cool to fit with the lore, and I just like Rotom, so yeah.
Yeah. I guess finally the last thing that I have in terms of forms would be more regional variants. I think that was a great idea. They could realistically, just based on where it's located alone, they could probably make like regional variants for Kalos mons, just because it's also a UK region, just like Kalos was based off of France. I think that would be something really easy to implement, and I think it would be really cool personally.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see what they do. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head that I would make into a Galar region or Galar variant. But
Aegislash.
Cool. Yeah, so what is it going to be there? It's going to be, like, it's going to have its... Like, how are you going to change it, though? I'm trying to think of that.
Steel Fighting.
Steel Fighting, and then it obviously has to have stance change still, like, so...
Or it could just have base 100 for all forms, and then it can get a new ability, and it just have one form.
Okay. Alright, that works too.
Yeah, like it could just be Aegis Slash as a sword and a shield, and it could have like base 100 in attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and its ability could be something like, I don't know, what would be an ability you even give something like that? It would need to be something like on par with Stance Change, because Stance Change is a really good ability.
Adaptability?
I was thinking adaptability, but I feel like that would just be too broken. Maybe like, I don't know. I feel like it
the Trick Room ability.
Yeah, see, that's a good candidate for it, right there. Especially if it was like a Lowland or a Galar Aegis Slash, that would be great.
I love the name of the region, by the way. I think it's
great
really well.
They could even give it like No Guard. That would be great. Perfect. See,
No Guard would be good too. Yeah.
Fixed. But anyway, I think that's it for this video. Of course, if you guys did enjoy the discussion, leave a like down below. Make sure you subscribe to Matt. Links in the description. It'll probably be above mine, as I usually put guests above mine. Matt, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what we do for the other stuff, the types, moves, and items, but you guys have to come to the other video for that.
Check out Matt's other video that we did on his channel, with myself included. Until then, we'll see you guys there. Peace out, guys.